Hi, welcome to Brother Be Well. I'm your host, Justin Martinez, and this is the BBW Youth Chat Series. Today, we are discussing the power of forgiveness. With me is Associate Marriage and Family Therapist from HearYou.org, Malik Sampson. We also have Brother Be Well Clinical Advisor, Dr. Michael Houston.
How you guys doing?
Hello, welcome. We also have our youth guest, Ted Ngatia and Richard Toledo with us. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How are we?
Doing good.
Pretty good.
Awesome. I'm very glad to have you all here. This is a very deep topic, the power of forgiveness. I think for me, just starting this thing off, forgiveness has been a huge tool in my life, surrounding my healing, and just really my success also. Finding forgiveness has been the backbone to all of my success up to this point, up to this very moment. There's a lot to dive into. You know, I don't choose to carry around resentment anymore, and I'm here to talk about it. And before we do talk about it, I want to just give a disclosure to everyone that if there's anything exposed in this chat surrounding anyone who has been hurt or anyone who we have hurt, we don't mention people of that sort to bash them or belittle them or degrade them in any way. This is all about finding forgiveness and the power that it possesses once we find it. So, with that being said, Dr. Houston, if I could call on you for just a second to, with your background in divinity, your doctorate degree, could you kind of paint a picture of what forgiveness means to us?
Well, okay. Well, by definition, it is to excuse from a fault or an offense, to pardon, the act of actually forgiving. So by definition, that is what it means. When we're looking at forgiveness, and I want to take it from a different perspective than the norm, is it starts with you. It starts with you forgiving yourself from different things that you have done. Because when you learn to forgive yourself, it's so much easier to forgive someone else. Because you have to ask yourself, is there anything that you know that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing? And if you got caught, would you have to say sorry? And if you can give yourself that same mercy for yourself, can you give someone else that same mercy and forgive them for their transgression or for their fault towards you?
Wow, that's very powerful. I thought of it the opposite way, Dr. Houston. I'm gonna be honest. I thought that the person who has hurt me the worst in my life, if I could forgive them, which that person is my father in my life. If I could forgive my father, then I could forgive everyone else. But thank you for pointing that out and giving us that perspective, because there are times where I've had to forgive myself, and it took a long time. It took a hard time for me. Specifically in my past relationships with women and my acts of infidelity and cheating and breaking people's hearts, in those relationships, I've had to sit with myself and come to terms with finding forgiveness for me for hurting someone else who has loved me. What other thoughts? Yeah. What other thoughts do we have on the definition of forgiveness? Thank you, Dr. Houston.
No problem.
I would say forgiveness, added on to Dr. Houston, I love the point that he was making, that it's about forgiving yourself in order to make it easier for you to forgive other people. But adding on to that forgiveness of other people is a lot of times for yourself, and using that mindset in order to help you, right? So if someone hurt me deeply and I'm holding on to this hurt for years and years and years, and I can't forgive them, and throughout this process of me not being able to forgive this person, I've now started to build this strong resentment, and it's hurting me. Me holding on and not forgiving them is now hurting me. So being able to forgive them is something that can help me heal from that. But it's a process, right? It's you don't just naturally you just don't forgive someone and forget about what they did and move on. And I think that's a piece too, where a lot of times people forget about, where you can forgive someone without forgetting about what they did. You can forgive them, but knowing that what they did was completely wrong, was not okay. But you can forgive them for that in order to help yourself grow from the experience.
That's a really good point you make, Malik. I have a question, follow-up question for that. Is it important to remember the hurt that we have been caused? Like you said, you may not forget, but you can forgive. There's always that saying, forgive and forget, forgive and forget. But I agree with you, and I find it important to forgive and remember, not to forget what has happened. But why is that important?
So
go ahead, Dr. Houston, please.
Well, I was going to ask it in a different way, Justin.
Sure.
And I was going to ask, what is the lesson that you learned from it? Because when you learn the lesson from it, now it's not a matter of how much am I going to hold on to, or what am I going to let go, or why am I letting it go? It's more along the lesson of, now that I've learned this particular lesson, I'm not going to forget the lesson that I've learned. I don't want to forget the lesson that I learned, because it cost me something. It cost me some tears. It cost me some sleepless nights. It cost me some hurt and some anguish. So those particular things that it cost me, now that I am forgiving that person, what did I get out of that? What kind of things did I have to dig in from within and learn from, whether to let that person go, to pray for that person, to help me get through that process?
Right.
Because we know that sometimes, we can say, yeah, I forgive you, and then we hold on to that while that person is living their life and acting as though nothing has even happened or anything like that. And so you're holding on to this grudge. And every time you see that person, let's be honest, when you come around that person, or you see that person, just something kind of crawls up inside you, like, ugh.
Right.
So that means you really haven't forgiven that person. That also means you haven't really learned the full lesson from it either.
That's a good point. Like, you could forgive, say you out loud forgive someone, but 95% that's true, and then that 5% is going to find its voice sooner or later, because maybe it takes a collective effort to fully forgive. Maybe you would need an apology from the person who has hurt you, or an acknowledgement of some sort, to finally find 100% peace and forgiveness. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, when you say need that person to apologize, I mean, now we're in the social media where people are in relationships and they break up via text, right?
Ooh.
And so what happens if that person never comes back and apologizes? Are you going to still hold on to that? And then again, they've gone on with their life. So I come back to, it does start with you first. And it takes a lot of strength to forgive someone who has hurt you and caused you a lot of pain, and to let that go and them not say anything to you, and you never have any contact with that person ever again.
So you could be left needing something that's never going to be there.
Well, you see, you keep saying needing,
Right.
And so everything that you need is within you. And so since the need is there, that would mean you have to tap within you, and even having circles like this, talking to some of your friends, talking to people that you trust, having people seed into you or sow words of encouragement or uplift into your spirit, and letting you know not just that everything is going to be all right, but who you are and whose you are.
Wow. It starts and ends with you. Forgiveness is forgiving to you. That's the lesson that I'm learning right now.
Well, Malik gave a great point. He says that, the forgiveness isn't for the other person. The forgiveness is for you.
Right.
I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, because they think that, when we forgive someone else, we're giving someone else the pleasure that we forgave them, and then a lot of people think that way. It's like, oh, I'm not going to give him or her the pleasure of me forgiving, that makes me seem like I gave in. Right, it's that holding that grudge, and it's like, I'm not gonna let him win. It's me, or he started it. Kind of like third graders. He started it, so why should I apologize? And then I feel like when we don't forgive, we're kind of like a prisoner in our own bodies. It's kind of like Dr. Houston said, when we see a person, we get mad. The other person might not get mad. We get ourselves mad, or depending on the situation, right? When we see another person, we might get sad. We're hurting our own selves because we haven't internalized, again, like Dr. Houston said, forgiveness within ourselves. And so I guess people should really ask, do I really want to be a prisoner of my own emotions? Why not just try to forgive? Again, it's hard. Yes, it is. But learn to forgive, and you could uncuff yourself, right?
Yep. I like that. Malik, I feel like you have a thought.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that forgetting element, right? Because when people say forgive but not forget, it's for not forgetting and holding on are two different things. So I wanted to just kind of talk about that a little bit. When it comes down to the not forgetting, I think that's more of a protection mechanism, right? If I don't forget this person and how this person made me feel with these actions, then in the future, if I'm starting to feel someone making me feel the same way that this person did before, and I remember what this feeling feels like, then now, yes, I forgave this person, but I'm protecting myself to where I'm not going to allow someone else to make me feel the same way that the other person did, even though I forgave them. And I think that's important, right? I can forgive them and actually be cool with them, and I can think about the things that they did. But if I'm going to forgive them, I'm not going to think about those. But what I am going to do is remember it so that it doesn't happen to me again. And I think that's okay when it comes to the forgiving but not forgetting, because protecting yourself and protecting your peace is very important. But I think when you can forgive, and then I think that's the hard part, right? Forgiving, not forgetting, but also not holding on to it at the same time.
Right.